Right. Okay. Good morning and welcome everybody to this Delivering Growth for SMEs presentation on the circular economy and developing key partnerships. The seminars that we offer are sponsored by Watford Borough Council as part of their investment in SMEs in the Watford area, and we are delighted to work with the Watford Chamber of Commerce as well, who are our partners in delivering these sessions to you. My name is Tony Mulvale. I'm part of the Brandon Business Support Team, and we work with small businesses in London and surrounding counties on our Fit to Bid program, which this seminar falls under. And I'd like to move along without too much ado to talk about who I am and what I do. So I'm Tony Mulvale. I'm a member of the Association for Project Management, and I also lecture at the University of West London. I've been doing these seminars with Brandon now for about 4 years and have delivered them to a number of companies across the country. My contact details are here on the page, so you can contact me via tony@branduin.co.uk. And I hope that you find this a useful and enlightening session where we talk about the circular economy and your key partners based on the business model canvas. So quickly going through the agenda, what we want to talk about today is an overview of the circular economy, what it is and how it works. We'll talk about the traditional versus a value transfer model. That's about how we can make sure that we're getting value for being in the circular economy, and a case study relating to a client of ours who we've worked with over a number of years. We've recently won a big contract at Heathrow to supply product into Heathrow. We'll also talk about the partnership canvas. There'll be some exercises there, so you'll need some pens and paper to hand. And we also have our action plan coming out of that. It was really important at the end of these seminars that we have some actions for you to take away so that you can take the learning back into your business. And this is all part of our Fit to Bid program, which is the skills and webinars, and there'll be a Meet the Buyer event that's has been organized recently. And any questions during the conversation, there's a chat box available. If you want to pop them into the Q&A, I will keep an eye on that. If you have any other comments you'd like to make, please feel free to raise questions as we go along. So without too much to do, who are Brandon? We are a leading group of business advisors in London and Southeast England. As I said, we work with local authorities, growth hubs, chambers of commerce, who our partners are today with the Watford Council and Watford Chamber of Commerce. And these business support programs that we deliver here help to build your skills, which generates wealth in the community and enables entrepreneurs to run and grow their businesses within the UK. We have a number of programs. The Goal Mapper and Fit to Export are part of our startup and our national wealth programs. The community wealth building program Fit to Bid is what you're part of. We also run other programs such as Sales Mapper, Fortuna and Fit for Finance. And our method is about making sure that you follow the path to securing contracts with larger organizations. So Heathrow is a classic example of this, a number of providers there, and we work with clients who have developed their bidding skills and have enabled them to get contracts at Heathrow, along with local councils. Today, what we want to talk about is supply chains. One of the things that's really important for the big tier one contracts and mains is being able to demonstrate how you contribute to the net zero carbon agenda, and also show that you can understand your ability to stop this throwaway economy and develop more around green economy activities. So this is about well-being for your business, economic activities that reduce your carbon footprint, that reduce the waste that you have, but also contribute to personal health and well-being as well. And so this circular economy is about building up the strategy, giving you ideas about how to make that happen. It's about creating economic growth, which is good for you and your business. So it's about recycling, reusing, and production in that economy. And our linear flow used to be, we would take scarce resources, we would make something with them, we would use them, and then that would generally appear as waste. And so that could be food waste, for example. These days it's recycled. Traditionally, that waste would just be skipped into a bin and sent off to landfill. So these scarce resources make it really difficult for us to replace them, and we're looking at ways to, okay, so how can we limit the way that we end up using landfill? So our circular economy talks about that, which is about return, reuse, recycle, and repair. So these different concepts enable us to look at how do we use something and then reuse or repair it. So we might have reuse through the use of plastic containers to refill bottles in supermarkets, or refill containers for other liquids or materials. We can repair things, so we're looking at taking something back and repairing it. Clothing can be repaired and remade until it's no longer reused, and then we can recycle it. And so some things we might return, some things we might recycle. So there's a number of different ways that we can work on these. Aris asked, are we getting a copy of these slides? I believe they're available afterwards. I'll check with Tracy to make sure that I'm clear about that. Thank you. And we're no longer in the kind of just taking and making. We're looking at reducing waste through this process. So if we limit what we take and we limit the waste that's created, we create additional value because we're making the most out of those resources that are available to us. So this is where we talk about value transfer and exchange. So your waste becomes somebody else's take. And a classic example of this is the food waste business, where if you're working in a building that's on a commercial estate, you may have an opportunity to recycle your waste through a commercial provider. That could be going through and being taken away as a collective for the site that you're on and recycled into biogas or into basically being burnt to generate additional power through something like down in Millwall near Bermondsey. There's a power plant that is basically a generator based on burning rubbish that's there. So there's different ways of doing this, and also you can charge for your waste as well. So there's opportunities to make a commission on the basis of something that you're no longer using and sending back computer equipment as well. You can sell that to resellers, books. If you have a lot of textbooks, if you're in a bookshop or something like this and you want to sell off a number of books, there are ways of selling those books off and recycling them as well. So fashion brands are one specific area where there's a lot of material that can be taken and used as insulation, or in the construction business we can chop that up and then turn it into insulation. We've got recycled plastics for bottled water, or using so for me, for example, I have my bidon here, which I use as my water bottle. I use that regularly if I'm out and about. I've got a recycled paper for printing, and we can also look at metal from car parts. There's lots of different ways to make this work. Even wood can be recycled. There are companies who will take grade A wood and recycle it and repulp it and pay for it from you. So it's about making sure that your outputs become somebody else's inputs, and who are those partners that we can find to make that happen. So what we used to have was 4 lenses around the business model canvas, which was our feasibility. So is this a feasible product for us to deliver? Our desirability of the product. Is there a market for this? How viable is this product? So that's looking at, can we make money from doing this? So does our revenue exceed our expenses? And how adaptable are we? And then we've added this extra lens around this, which is making sure that we've got a purpose. And so we're looking at this and saying, okay, so what's the purpose? And this is about people, planet, and profit. It's making sure that we're still viable, that we're not going to be bankrupt, but that we will make a profit for this, for our business. So this is a new lens that has come into the language of sustainability over the last 5 years. And with the challenges that we face, we want to make sure that our thinking is innovative and looking at growth strategy and how can we be a business with purpose and adapting to the challenges in front of us. And so when we look at this, and we consider, what are our benefits. We may be able to reduce our costs from some of the sourcing and operations that we have. We can improve the resilience of our supply chain because we're able to get supplies that are closer to us or less costly from an environmental perspective. We can be better compliant, so we can reduce our risk of sending things to landfill. So, for example, if we're recycling things for a licensed waste recycler, then we can demonstrate that we are compliant in the way our waste is disposed of, and that reduces the risk. And also, we find that as younger people come into the workforce now, their desire to work and their motivation is about doing better for the environment and doing better for people. So we also have that ability to retain and motivate our talent more effectively. We can also look at our commercial benefits, so we get better customer loyalty. Excuse me, and that enables us to talk to our customers about how we are doing better for the planet, and it can generate better customer retention as a consequence. We can also look at that as a brand positioning activity as well, to say, we are a green company and this is the impact that we have and this is how we are making a difference. And also we can demonstrate our path to net zero, so we can reduce our greenhouse emissions, we can reduce waste, and we can protect the planet from doing that. So these are some of the benefits that we can gain from a circular economy, and there are multiple ways that we can do that. And when we look at our commercial customers and the impact on our customers, then we also take into account with the green economy the social value. So it's also about making a difference to the economy that we're in. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals talk about how do we make a difference across a number of different factors. By repairing, reusing, recycling, we are able to keep that wealth within the community and make a difference to the people amongst us. So, excuse me for a moment. All right, sorry, I've just got a bit of a cough after this last week. So we have access to new markets. We can generate new IP, which talks about how we are able to access this new way of doing business, and we can engage with our local businesses through part of our supply chain, and we can encourage others that we deal with to do more in this space. So when we think about this, there's also the Alan MacArthur Foundation. They provide lots of examples around the circular economy and give you some great ideas about where you can go to look at this. Reusable packaging, there is a business model for this where we can look at, what are the different options. We've got refilling at home, returning from home. That could be bags, and the fact that supermarkets no longer give you plastic bags. If they do, they charge you a fee for more sustainable bags that you're more likely to reuse. We've got refill on the go and return on the go. So these are different ideas, and you can look at, refilling at home. What does that mean? Well, we get a refill container, we use the product, and we go back and get refills, so we don't always use a new container. So we can do in-store home delivery. So different ways of looking at, and I'm just going to pop that in the chat. And everybody should be able to see that. So if you want to have a look at this and delve into getting more detail, then the Alan MacArthur Foundation is a great place to go for this sort of information. So if we go back to where we are with our circular economy, there's also the Build Back Better Foundation with Re London. There is a program going on at the moment with giving you skills and access to grants to change the way your business works, although you have to be inside London to do that rather than just on the borders in Watford. But there is an organisation here called relondon.gov.uk that will give you ideas about how to do that. So that's an initial overview of the circular economy. Does anybody have any questions about that? It was a fairly quick tour on that, but I want to spend a bit more time going through some of the examples with the key partnerships. happy to take questions if people have them. If not, we'll just move on and talk about, what does it mean to work with partners? And one of the challenges we face, with the cheetah being one of the fastest land animals in the world, but the challenge it has when it hunts alone is it doesn't succeed very often. 50% success rate, so it's a coin toss as to whether or not it's going to catch its prey. And because it's hunting alone, it tends to have issues with not being able to catch something after 200 or 300 meters. It's run its race. It does tire, and it can't climb trees. And in Africa, one of the biggest challenges about not being able to use trees is that the bigger cats will come and take what you've killed. So working on your own can be difficult, can be intense, can be very tiring. Whereas if you're working in a partnership, and the proverb from Africa is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Elephants being a classic example of this. The herds work together, the matriarchs, they pass down the knowledge over generations. They know where the water holes are, the good feeding spots. So they all work together to generate wealth for the herd and keep the herd alive. And this is what we talk about with our sustainable partnerships. We're really talking about here ways of bringing together partnership and collaboration. And at Brandywin, we've built up this partnership over a decade of working with local chambers, working with local government organisations, Wandsworth, Hounslow, Hillingdon. We've also worked with Hertfordshire and now with Watford Council and Watford Chamber. So there's really important to build up those combinations of partnerships and collaborations. As a small business, it doesn't necessarily always make sense to work on your own. Yes, you might be competing with others who do similar things to you, but you do things differently as well. So you can collaborate sometimes with these people and learn and work together to do more. So what we want to talk about today is how we partner with people to create value. So what are the partners that we want to work with? Who are they? Where are they? What is the aim of the partnership? So what do we want to achieve from doing that? And what's the value that we're going to exchange between the two business models? So this is going to give you a few exercises here today. Please pop anything into the chat if you've got questions about this, and I'll ask you as we go along to pop your answers into the chat as well. Obviously, best not to disclose anything sensitive or confidential in relation to your business. This is just meant to be more general ideas around how might we do this. So we're going to partner up, as I said, to meet customer expectations. We're going to be some people who do work or deliver products or services that we are not set up to do, and we can't necessarily fulfill our customers' needs if we don't work with these partners. So we want to look at how can we reduce risk, enhance our scale, and work together to generate new opportunities for ourselves and our business partners. And there are lots of different ways of doing this: marketing, supply chain, integration, technology, and financial partnerships. We'll focus more on supply chain today and looking at and service opportunities. So how do you develop these key partnerships? In the business model canvas, we look at both sides of the coin here. If we have a partner, what's the value that we're creating? What's the transfer activity? What do we need to do to make that happen? So questions to ask yourself, first of all: who are our key partners? Who are our key suppliers? Which key resources are we getting from those partners, and which key activities do partners perform for us? And so if we think about this as a supply chain model, if you're dealing with an accountant, what does an accountant provide you with? They provide you with your financial information such as P&L, balance sheet. They may provide some management account reports for you, payroll, and they may also look after the bookkeeping for you, depending on what your needs are with that particular client or with that particular partner. Now, it may be that you have the accountant do the management accounting and the tax returns for you, and you might work directly with a bookkeeper to do the bookkeeping, the VAT returns, and the payroll. So depending on what you need, you might have one or maybe two partners in the space who provide you with that sort of activity. Why do we work with bookkeepers and accountants? Well, we want to take away some of the financial activity that we perform within the business because we're not qualified to do it, or there's too much to do and it takes us away from our key focus, which is maybe the sales space, or building proposals for clients and delivering value to clients with the project work that we do. Another example of this, and it is in our case study, is around the circular economy and the use of pallets. So we have a client who is a pallet reclaimer. They basically take the second-hand pallets from partners, so suppliers who've finished with those pallets, bring them into the yard, clean them up if they need to, and then sell them back on to other customers or clients who want pallets, who are food producers or logistics operators who need a regular supply of pallets. So there is this ongoing need for our partners, for our client to find partners who are suppliers of pallets. So the resources they want to acquire from them are pallets. And the activities our partners perform are the collection and sort of stacking and sorting of those pallets on their sites, so that the client can go there and collect the pallets and then bring them back. So first of all, just make a few notes yourself about who your key partners are and your suppliers. And there is a bit of a difference, because sometimes your partners are helping you to deliver more. Your suppliers could just be a supplier of a service or a product that we need. So think about successful strategic partnerships, and you can pop into the chat anything you might want to talk about there. So if anybody does have any updates or anything they want to chat about with strategic partnerships, depending on the business you're in, you might have an accountant, you might have a supplier of some critical part of your production process. One client I'm working with is looking at ways of building solar-powered batteries. So they'll have a battery partner who's actually making the batteries for them, and they're purchasing them from them. They don't want to make them themselves, and they need them to be of a certain size. So there's some work going on with them to look at how can we make this a product that is portable enough for the target audience we're working with. So there are some different ways to go about doing that. And when we've identified those partners, which ones of them are critical, so to you and your business. So do we know who they are? Do we know which of those partnerships are part of that critical business model that we have? And it may be that a supplier offers you 2 or 3 different opportunities to work with them in differing ways. Even though there might be one company, they might have maybe 2 different ways of working with you. And as I said, if you think about an accountant, one part of what they offer is the management accounting for you. The other part that they offer is the bookkeeping. And they're 2 different activities, even though they're interlinked and they support each other. And think about, what type of partnerships support your needs as well. So is there something you need and would like to work with the client or the supplier rather, but what would it look like? So is it going to be a hands-off transactional process, or is it going to be more collaborative? So it's two extremes of that process. Either it's transactional, we've specified what we want and the partner delivers it, more like a supplier, or they're an actual partner where they're collaborating with us and we're working with them to deliver product that we need. One example of that is working with builders who need suppliers and partners who can provide uh, made-to-measure window frames. So some houses have different size windows, so you might be looking at someone who has a CNC, a computer numeric cutter that can shape and fit window frames to the size and quality that you're looking for. And every order is a little bit different because every house is a little bit different. So you're looking at a reliable partner who can produce for you the material and the size and shape of the window frames that you want. So again, thinking about that, who are these critical partners for you? Because our partnership is about developing that relationship with those people to make sure that they can deliver what we need when we've asked for it. That's one of the aspects to think about with these partners as well. They're not just someone where we order, 45 widgets from them and we get it back. It's someone who can supply us with the quality of material or the quality of work that we want in order to demonstrate the value of our business to our customers. And what assets do we seek to leverage from this partner? So what is our partner willing to offer us? So what is the value that we get from that partner? So if we are doing buildings and we're a master contractor, we'll be looking at partners who can provide us with high-quality electrical work. They might be looking at plumbers. We might be looking at fitters who can produce high-quality displays. So we might be doing a commercial fit-out, and we want to install some high-quality shelving and display stands in there. So we're going to be looking for a partner who can turn around that work relatively quickly, but also provide us with a high-quality output. And what do we mean by that? It could be the nature of the material used in the shelves. It could be the artwork presented upon the shelves, or it could be other ways of making us distinguish ourselves with our build from other people. And sometimes if you look at even something as simple as a coffee shop, and you look at the difference between the stools and the stores and in a well-known sandwich brand versus a more boutique coffee shop, the quality of the furnishings and the fittings will be what distinguishes you from your competitors. So there's different ways and different thoughts around what is our partner willing to offer us. So if I'm going to go and fit myself out a high quality coffee shop, I'm going to be looking for comfortable chairs that look and feel luxurious. I'm going to be looking for fittings that give a sense of depth and even artistic impression to them. Whereas if I'm fitting out a run-of-the-mill sandwich shop that's got a particular commercial chain behind it, I'm only going to deliver what's needed to fit the brand and what they want. So that it could just be very much a transactional thing, as I say. So think about what's our partner going to offer us? Are they going to offer us art? Are they going to offer us just a service that meets a minimum specification? Any questions from there? Any thoughts in the chats? So on the flip side of this, what does our partner value in us? So we could be looking at somebody who is manufacturing a product, and we want that product to be accessible in certain locations. And what we're looking at there is to say, okay, so our partner values in us our ability to access those locations and put their product in there. So it could be a stationary product, for example, and we've got contacts with stores that they would like to work with, and they can use us as the partner to get in there. So if I'm looking at sort of a high-end stationary product, I might have access to the shops that have the distribution network there, so we can open up that door for them, and that's what they value in us. But it could also be that if I'm trying to make an outdoor product, then I might go and look at Blacks or Cotswolds to say, can I work with you to distribute my product through your stores? And they're going to be my partner. So they're not necessarily a client. My end client is the customer who comes into the store and buys my product. I'm looking to partner with Blacks for the distribution that they offer me through their store network. So that's what I'm looking for in them. So if I'm looking at from my company to selling my product, they're going to be my key partner for the distribution of this product. So we think of our partners as distributors or door openers who can take us to the next level. So from our side, what leverage do we offer our partners? So how can we do something? And from our perspective with our partner, it may also be that we offer a high quality product that's going to draw new customers into their stores as well. So if it is the outdoor store, it may be that they come in and they look at our product, and because it's new and innovative, it is something that they can advertise and generate additional footfall, which can raise their overall basket size in the store. So again, we're looking at different ways of saying this is how our brand can support the marketing of your brand and how we can offer value to you as our partner. So trying to think about it that way. Any thoughts, comments, ideas on that? Give people a moment to catch up. We've still got plenty of time, so people want to think about, how do they partner with others? What do their partners look like? Who are their clients, and how does your partner enable you to reach your clients? Is another way of thinking about this, and what value are we offering to our partner as a result of that? And for some partners, it could simply be a steady stream of work for them is all the value they need. The other part we look at is how are we going to connect with our partners to collaborate, and how do we actually transfer that value? And so there are going to be some key activities that we need to perform, and we need key people or key resources to do that. Okay. Beatrice has a question for startup looking to partner with a more established company. How should this model fit into their strategy? Okay, so Beatrice, I think that's a good question, and what we're looking at there is to understand first of all, what is it that the strategy is for that company. So without knowing about your business or about the sort of product or service that you provide, I think back to a couple of different providers I'm working or I've seen who deal with children's mental health. There's one called the Book of Beasties, and there's another called escapes my mind, but Karen is Mind Marvels is the name, who've created two different ways of providing mental health and emotional growth, if you like, for school children. And the Book of Beasties is all about the books and the stories and games and that sort of activity. And it's very much a kind of school-led activity, whereas Mind Marvels is more of an embedded franchise model where they work directly with schools to come in and support them with their children's growth. So both businesses are targeting schools as their end client, but they're working with them in differing ways. And the Book of Beasties are using this more to produce the materials that they need and then train the schools to deliver the sessions. Okay, great. Thanks, Beatrice. So it's food supply chain, whereas Mind Marvels are looking to develop franchises, and the key resource there will be the person with the knowledge to deliver that into the school. So there are different ways of doing that. In the food supply chain, then if you're making foods, there's different models that you could think about. So if you, for example, have to make a product and you want to sell it into a a commercial space. So say if you want to sell it to a big department store like Selfridges or Harrods or Fortnum and Mason because they're well-known names, then you need to have a commercial kitchen to do that has a specific um, rating in terms of the hygiene standard for that kitchen. Now, to fit out a kitchen costs a large amount of money, and to get that accreditation means that you have to have a commercial kitchen on a commercial premises. There are commercial kitchens available for rent that have that certification, so it may be that you'll be able to use the kitchen, bring your ingredients in, make the product you need, and then sell that on to the commercial buyer. Another way of doing it is to say, actually, if my product involves pastry, for an example, if I want to make pastry according to my recipe, and my recipe is unique, I can register that IP for the pastry. It's a specific recipe. It's unique. I've tried and tested it, and everybody likes it. That's great. And then what I can do is work with a partner who could manufacture that pastry for me under license. So they may do this with several other companies, and therefore their total cost of production is going to be much lower per unit or per kilogram or of pastry than you would have if it's you. So if you think about making pastry, it takes about half a day to make pastry from the time you start, mix all the ingredients, let it rest, put it in the fridge, come back, roll it out again, and do all of that. So that's half a day you're spending of time doing that. Whereas if you've been able to outsource that, manufacture it under license, that's going to reduce your cost, and it's going to increase the amount of time you have available to produce the final product, and more importantly, find customers who are going to buy it. So I hope that helps, Beatrice, to give you some ideas about how you might want to do that. It's about finding maybe a company who can produce your product at on a commercial basis that is cheaper than what it would take you to do it in your own space. And it may be that in the fullness of time, you might transfer those activities into your own business as you grow. So it would depend, but for specifics like this, I have a couple of contacts. So if you'd like to talk to me afterwards or contact me, tonym@branduin.co.uk, I can put you in touch with some people who I know who are able to do that. Any questions on that, Beatrice? Great. Okay. So yeah, Beatrice, that is one of the ways that we can work with different organizations, particularly if we're in the food production business. There's lots of rules and regulations around that. So we want to make sure that we have the right processes, the right certificates, and the right activities in the chain that enables us to transfer one product from a supplier to us to finish it off. The key resources will be their factory. Our key resource might be our know-how and our finishing touch. So it depends on how we work with them. More traditional example of this is the construction business, and in particular fire alarms. Within the space of fire alarms, there's a whole range of activity that you can perform in terms of installing systems, making sure they're secure, making sure that you've got the right mechanisms in place to respond to issues with equipment, those sorts of activities. But there are other specialist needs within that space, and some companies will focus on just the fire alarm install, and will look to have trusted partners they can bring in to do other parts of the consulting activity that they either don't want to do or don't want to staff up to have the certificates and the responsibility for that. So again, if you think about this, you're acting kind of like a main supplier at that point, where you've got a number of different subcontractors working for you. So it's all about thinking through, what do I want that subcontractor to do for me? What is the type of work that they would perform? How would they perform it? Where would they do the work? What sort of resources do I need to work with them to make that happen. So it's about stepping through the process and understanding step by step, okay, these are the things I need to do. This is how I am going to engage with my subcontractors. This is the type of insurance I need. This is the type of certificate they need. So before I even work with them, the first activity I'm going to go through is a vetting process to make sure that they've got safe contractor, that they have any health and safety certificates they need. Perhaps they need to work at height. So there's lots of different models or lots of different steps we might want to go to make sure they're the right partner for us and that they've got the right resources on their side for us to work with them. Any questions on that one? So as I say, a lot of this is about documenting the process, and it may be that different partners have different activities and resources that they need to perform. So it's not going to be one size fits all. It's going to be different activities have different steps in them. So in Beatrice's food example, if we're subcontracting our pastry making process under license to a third party, then there's going to be a contract in place. We're going to make sure that we have the right controls over that so that they don't just take our IP and use it for their own benefit. And we'll come on to that in the next exercise, in a separate exercise. But what we're looking at is to say, what's our return on the investment? Now, as I talked about in that pastry example, looking at that and saying, well, if it's 4 hours of my time and I think that I'm worth £100 an hour, then that's a £400 investment that I'm making in my business. So what would I expect to get out of that? So I'm expecting my unit cost of pastry to be cheaper, so I don't have to worry about how much time I need to spend on that. And I'm also expecting that the 4 hours I'm going to put back into my business are going to generate more clients for me to sell my product with its pastry wrapping on it. So again, I'm looking at that and saying, okay, so I'm expecting that less time spent in the kitchen, literally, in this example, is going to give me more time spent talking to customers, establishing relationships, and obtaining orders of substantial size with other clients. So in the selfishness example, it may take me 3 days of meetings plus 3 days of preparation time in order to get to the first point with the contract to say, now I've got a contract with them. So if I think about that, I'm thinking that I'm charging myself at £800 a day times 6 days, that's £4,800. And so what do I get in terms of return from that contract? And if I've got a £10,000 contract with them, then I'm looking at that and saying, okay, so that's a decent return on that investment, but there's probably more investment needed along the way to make sure that I continue to sell my product to that client. So that's an example of the value transfer between the partners. The value I'm getting from this is more time available to invest in my marketing and sales activities. So that's how we need to think about this. And again, if you don't have a budget for marketing per se, you don't spend money on outbound queries and doing inbound advertising and marketing, and maybe that you're talking directly to people, that's still time. So you need to account for your time and say, this is what it's actually costing me to spend that time doing the work I'm doing. I hope that makes sense to people. Any questions? We've had a few from Beatrice, but if anybody else wants to pop any questions in the chat or in the Q&A box, then that would be great. So we've talked through the activities in here, the 6 exercises. You can do this under your own on your own after the session, and look at ways of thinking about how am I going to work with these particular partners, and what is it that I want from them, and what's the return I'm going to get from them by doing this work. And it's an important process to go through, because it means that I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about this in a structured way, and I'm thinking about what I want from my partner, what's the value that they're going to bring in, what do we need to do, What does it look like in terms of the processes, the resources, the activities, and how do we transfer value between the two organizations? How do we collaborate and generate a good outcome for both of us? Because we want to make sure that our partners continue to be our partners for a long period of time. So when we think about that, that enables us to talk about an agreement. And this is really important because, like all businesses, we need to have agreements in place to talk about who's doing what. So who's involved in this? Who's going to do which part of the process? Are there services? Are there products? Which of us is going to do what in terms of those activities? How are we going to bill? What are the profit margins that we want? What's the reporting structure? Who are we going to contact? When are we going to contact them? How long do we have this agreement for? Because we might want someone like to market or to build our IP under license, but how long do we want them to do that for? And how much are they going to pay, or how much are we going to pay for these processes? And what are the outcomes and milestones? Because there may be that if we start off with the process of bedding in phase where the first month might be just getting everything set up and making sure we understand how it's all going to work, and that's our first milestone. And then our second milestone might be to move onto a more business as usual footing where we get into a more steady state of production. So we want to have those timelines in there, and we want to build in the outcomes that we expect. So we want to say what quality looks like. If we're making pastry, the pastry needs to meet this particular so I'm going to say, if we're making pastry, we want pastry to be to a particular standard, and we want to make sure that it's not too soft, not too hard, that it is able to be rolled out to a certain thickness. So there's going to be those sorts of controls we put in place and specify that in the contract, and then that enables us to have a sensible conversation with the supplier afterwards to say, look, you've delivered this product to us, but it's not to the required standard, and here is why, relative to the agreement we signed. And we also talk about reporting, how to get back with quality control and audit. So how do we make sure that the product meets our standard? What does that quality look like? Is it the thickness, the consistency of the pastry? Is it the quality of the finish on materials? If somebody's making us a cabinet, we want it to be finished properly. We don't want sharp edges and nails to be sticking out and other hazards. And also, who's signing this? So have I got the right signatures on there? Am I talking to the owner or somebody in the company who has the authority to sign the contract? So I need to make sure that it's a director of the company who's signing off on that. So that's part of the process for controlling that and providing us with that quality check at the end. And in our supply chain, there are lots of different ways to look at partnerships. If we talk about distribution channels, if we're a new company and we're starting up and we don't have a distribution network, we might look at a third-party logistics company to do that for us. Classic example of that is Amazon, and using the Amazon 3PL, as they say, or third-party logistics operation to ship our product. There are other companies like this where you basically send your product to them. They put your product in a box. You've got a signed agreement, say this is my box and this is my product, and then they manage onward distribution of orders from your clients. And so that's a really good way of being able to scale up your business without having to invest heavily in the logistics needed to get your product from where it's manufactured to where it's consumed. Facilities, again, you might want to look at renting facilities, or like in the kitchen example, there might be a part-time kitchen you can use, and you can just take that on a kind of as needed basis, more like a kitchen as a service type of opportunity where you're paying for the hours you use rather than paying for the facility per month. So all of these things make a difference. Waste, there are a number of companies that will take away waste and make sure that it's recycled into biogas or other non-landfill uses. Emissions, trying to keep our carbon emissions down is another way of doing of getting involved in the supply chain and collaborating with people who can look at ways of reducing emissions. That could be through, and the combination of that with the energy could be just putting LEDs in all of your shops. It's a very simple transition, but it makes a huge difference to the amount of heat that you generate and the amount of energy that you consume. So there's a number of different ways of looking across these different areas of the supply chain. So depending on what you do and depending on what your product is or your service, there are these different examples from the Board of Innovation where they talk about the circular economy as well. And every business is different, so it's always good to have a mix of understandings across those and a mix of partners. So I did talk about this a little earlier, but this is the Pallets Yard. They've been a client of Brandon for a number of years now, and they basically take second-hand pallets and recycle them into the distribution economy. So Ruth Ann and Ian have been working with Brandon, as I said, for some amount of time now. They recently won a contract with Heathrow to take a supply of pallets out of Heathrow, and that has made a substantial boost to the business. Now they have a steady supply and a larger supply. Yep, okay. So I'll have a look at Peter's blog separately. He's popped that in there, channel marketing activity. Great, thanks, Peter. I will have a look at that afterwards. If you want to save the chat, you can just click the three buttons in the bottom right of the webinar chat and save that, and it'll save it into a folder for you for later on. I will have a look at that article, but it's a good example of how to make sure that you are channel marketing effectively. And with Ruth Ann and Ian, they're able to recycle and, well, repair and reuse the pallets. And that's a really important part of the circular economy. There's also DIY products. And one of the things that they can demonstrate is that they have no waste. So the average life cycle of a pallet is about 8 years. And what they do is they constantly repair them with parts that are coming from other broken pallets, so they can continually keep that piece of pallet or that pallet in use with repairs. And at the end of the life of the pallet, when there are just the bits left over, they can be chipped and turned into mulch. So they send basically end-of-life pallets to a mulching company who chip them down and turn them into garden, sort of not fertilizer per se, but a kind of mulch for the garden, so you can put it on top of your garden bed. So it's a good example of how the circular economy works. And the other one is looking at the J&I cleaning services. They have won themselves a contract with the Crown Commercial Service, which is a very big property, if you like, company in London, and that enables them to take their products in and clean for those companies and do it in a way that measures their carbon footprint and demonstrates how they are able to work effectively with big organizations. And they've come from being a smallish company now to a very large company who've won that contract at that stage. So again, that is one of the testimonials that we've had from working with the Fit to Bid program, and how we can look at enhancing skills and giving companies the confidence to partner with other organizations to deliver services to them. And again, they walk through the process we talked about earlier, is identifying who these clients would be, what partners they need, how are they going to market their service. They have a domestic and they have a commercial service. And again, there are different ways of delivering those different services. So that is the a kind of quick case study from that. And just to give you a bit of an overview of what we've talked about, partnership processes, identifying the challenge, doing your research, understanding why we want to partner with these people, drawing that out on our partnership canvas and understanding what we want from partners. We might shortlist some partners, and we might only know a couple of people that we have met through our networking, and we'll start to engage with them and draw out what does that look like in detail between us and the specific company. might have the first couple of runs of that, as I said, an initial period of a trial to make sure we understand how we're going to work together and test and experiment that, and then refine that as we go and launch that. So that's our kind of summary process there. And always think about, who do we want as our key partners, our suppliers, what resources do we want, and what activities we want from those partners. So that's the key partners. That's our kind of feasibility side of the business model canvas, where we're looking at value transfer between ourselves and other partners. And hopefully by now you've got 3 actions that you want to take away to say, these are the 3 things I need to do and when I am going to do them by. When I work with clients, I find that those that have clear goals and actions to support them tend to focus on getting those things done and do them well. And sometimes I find that clients don't have clear actions, and my goal is to get them to start focusing on those because we can all suffer from shiny object syndrome and go off chasing many different rabbit holes and finding ourselves down the rabbit hole of despair, as I like to call it. But it's really important that we have those actions to keep us on track, to make sure we know that we're getting value for the time we're putting into our business. Just a quick wrap up here in terms of the program. So today we're doing the circular economy and developing key partnerships. We're back again in January with the introduction to bid writing, and February is the second phase of that, which is improving your bid response. There is another Meet the Buyer live event in March on the 14th, and we'll also that month talk about writing public and sector bids and tenders, and there will be ongoing advice sessions, signpostings, referrals during the program. So if you haven't already spoken to Tracy or to the team at Watford Chamber, please get in contact with them if you'd like some one-to-one advice about this. Any questions, you can pop them in the chat, or you can send them to me, tonym@brandurant.co.uk. There will be a sign up for the Meet the Buyer event, which will be on 14th of March, 3:30 p.m. And the last one was very successful, and we're looking to see a number of businesses there again who can come and meet the decision makers at Watford Council and other tier 1 buyers who tend to hold the main contracts for the clients they're working with. So important that you come along to those if you want to get into the supply chain for these large organizations. So you can contact Tracy at brandurant.co.uk. That's Tracy with an E. You can look at booking your one-to-one sessions in, and there's also submissions of interest, so construction projects and other tenders, and this advice will help you to deliver a winning bid. I think that's pretty much it for today. It's been great to have you here and hear your questions. And Peter, thank you very much for the LinkedIn post. I'll take a look at that after this. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can contact info@brandurant.co.uk. You can contact Tracy at brandurant.co.uk, or you can email me, tonym@brandurant.co.uk. So it's right on 12 o'clock. Thanks very much for your time, everybody, and we'll be in touch again soon.